Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be my common sense guide to the car buying process. Now I'm going to be sharing with you guys all of the things that I have learned over my many years of purchasing many cars and going to many dealerships. Now this is going to be a very succinct and to the point video that's going to talk a lot about all my car secret buying tips that I have learned over the years that's going to save you guys a lot of money. Everything from the preliminary process of what you should buy, when you should buy it, how you should buy it, all the way down to the closing process. So let's just hop right into this. So I've broken this video down into 4 categories. One is the preliminary process. The second is the negotiation process. The third is the financing, and then the fourth is the closing. Now some of the tips are going to overlap each other because they kind of go hand in hand, but I am going to try to break this down into a category-wise standpoint so you guys have a clear understanding of how to go about into the car process. So let's just kind of hop into this. So from the preliminary standpoint, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to identify what you want to buy and why you want to buy it. And the reason I say that is that if you're not sure what you want to buy, like if you're on the fence between a sedan and an SUV and you just start going into car dealerships and you're not actually knowing what you're looking for, the probability of you purchasing something that you don't want, that you're going to have buyer's remorse, or that you over purchasing over your budget is much higher. So first things first, with the preliminaries, identify what you want, identify some of the features and perks that you want in the car so you have a clear baseline as to what you want to go into. So the second thing that I highly recommend you guys do is the preliminary steps, or make sure that you go online before you go to the dealership. So what this does, this is a very powerful step, is because it helps eliminate you spending a lot of your physical man hours driving to dealerships and negotiating with dealers for cars that are well overpriced and don't already have a good baseline. And it also helps narrow down just the overall buying process into which dealerships you want to focus your purchasing habits on. The second thing is it helps eliminate a lot of the emotions. So if you already know the specific cars that you're looking for, you know that they are priced reasonably relative to the market, then it stops you from going to the dealership not knowing what you're wanting, and then you end up possibly getting sold on something that you don't want. So identifying the cars that you want to purchase online before going to the car dealership is a really big thing. It has saved me, well, I should say it's cost me a lot of money in the beginning when I purchased a lot of the cars that I used to have, and then it's also saved me a lot of money over the recent years with doing that process. And then the third thing that I would highly recommend that you guys do in the preliminary category is make sure that you identify all of the total cost of ownership of this car. So a lot of people, when they go look at the car, the only thing that you focus on is your monthly payment, or you focus on the total cost of the car. But you need to also make sure that you factor in the gas for the car. If you're going to be driving a lot of miles, is it a V8? Is it a V6? Does it require premium gas? What are the maintenance costs going to be? I saw a video online with a guy who said that he purchased a S63 AMG and it came time for brakes, and it was a $4,000 brake job. You know, you have to identify your repair costs as well. You know, is the car likely to break down? If it is, what are the typical things that it's going to break down on? Reliability, things of that factor, things of that nature, and all those factors that can significantly increase your total cost of ownership. Having a Mercedes S-Class sedan that's 2014 is going to be a hell of a lot different than having a 2020 Honda Accord. So just make sure you factor that all in, because that can significantly break your budget. And then the fourth thing is, and this isn't really in the preliminary, but I think that it should be, because you need to have a game plan before you go into the car buying process, is identify whether or not you're going to trade in your car. So you know, the common step that a lot of people do is they take their car and they do a trade-in. And so if you're already upside down in your car, you're going to take a hit on that, and then you're going to end up taking a hit on the trade-in value, because they're going to always give you less than what the car is worth. So if you can trade your car, if you can sell your car to a private party and try to schedule that around maybe a week or so after you financing your first car, if at all possible, I'd highly recommend that, because you're going to save a lot of money without having to take the hit on the trade-in. Keep in mind, the more expensive your car is, the more you're going to lose on your trade-in value. So that's just really something to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to the negotiation process, One of the main things that I had to learn in my many car years of purchasing is you don't want to overshare information. So you don't want to go into the process and letting them know that you have to have a car today, or that you only have X amount of dollars. Like, the less information that you give a car salesman, the less leverage that they have to be able to take advantage of you, or to also use that information against you, with knowing that you have to get a car off the lot today, even if you are in that situation, or with telling them that that you got financed for $50,000, but your budget is only 20. So just giving them the basic, very vague information. You're looking for a car. You may or may not buy today. You have a budget on the price of the car that you want to stay in. That is very important. And then another important thing in the negotiation phase is make sure that you do not negotiate your monthly payment. Negotiate the price of the car. So the reason that I say this is because a huge tactic that a lot of car salesmen do in the negotiation process is, as a matter of fact, it's one of the first questions they ask you is, what do you want your monthly payments to be? And this is something that the car dealerships can use a lot against people who have poor credit or who aren't in the best financial situations. And even if you are, because what they'll do is they'll take the warranty, and they'll take upgrading you on features and the newer model car, and then they'll just extend out the loan and lump that all in. They'll say, hey, look, we kept you below your, under your monthly payment, or we kept you right at that. So you never ever want to negotiate your monthly payment. You want to already know based on the terms of the loan that you want to have, like if it's a 3 or 4 year loan. You want to already identify how much that's going to be roughly before you even walk into a car dealership. So always negotiate the price of the car, not the monthly payment. All right. Another very important thing to remember when it comes to negotiations is you want to make sure that you keep your trade-in, if you are going to trade in the car, your price of the car, and your financing completely separate. So those are 3 independent things when it comes to purchasing a car through the whole process. And the reason that I say that is because it goes back to the monthly payment deal, right? So a car dealership, they like to already start assessing the trading value of your car. They want to already be able to have all the numbers so that they can play and manipulate with those numbers and massage them to all fit within your monthly payment by extending out your loan amount. But by only focusing on the price of the car, that's the meat and potatoes of the deal, and that really helps lock down exactly the price that you want to stay in without having to be able to massage all the numbers, which could make the price of the total purchase of the car and the financing and everything much higher than what you want it to be. So really important. Now, another really important a tactic that car salesmen use, I've seen it a lot more recently over the past 4 or 5 years than I have before that, but I know that you'll notice this a lot, especially if you've just recently have purchased a car, and that's that a lot of times car salesmen will talk with you about a car. You're casually looking, the car will be valued at $24,300, whatever, and then you'll say, man, I really, my budget's something like $21,000. Ooh, I really wish it was in there. And he says, okay, I tell you what, yeah, that's kind of like right at where we pay for the car. He'll give you some, sales, pitch. He'll say, well, I tell you what, the month's kind of hard. Maybe I give my manager to approve that. If you want to just sign your name here, let me see what I can do for you. And then he'll get you to sign your name on like a piece of paper that he'll just write down like a blank sheet of paper, $21,200, and initial it. And he'll take it back to his car, to the car salesman, I should say, or to the finance manager. And they'll go back and they'll go, hey, what's going on, man? What are you guys doing for the weekend? Want to go have a beer? Okay, cool. All right, great. Come out 15 minutes later, like, hey, good news. So yeah, you know what? You're in luck today. We can get it for $21,200. So you want to go ahead and start doing the closing? And so it's a psychological trick that car salesmen use a lot of times, to where they will actually make you feel as though that you started to commit to a car when you really are just in the looking phase, or you're not quite sure that you want it or what have you. So just keep that in mind. All right, that's really important. And then another important step in the negotiation phase is you need to understand what you can actually negotiate. So a lot of times people don't know what they can and can't actually try to negotiate or haggle with the car dealership. So when it comes to your taxes, that's not negotiable, obviously. Your car registration, that's not negotiable, obviously. That's something that's set by the dealership, by your DMV area, or the agency, the government agency that sets the registration, that does the registration of your car. You have your destination charge. Usually that's not negotiable. Occasionally it can be, but that's a charge that the car dealerships pay other dealerships to get the car transferred if it's from out of state. That's not usually negotiable. But you can negotiate the doc fee, the documentation fee. A lot of times the car dealerships will say, well, we have a $4.99 doc fee or $7.95 doc fee. And they'll say, that's just locked in, it's not really negotiable. Well, it is negotiable. Your advertising surcharges, any type of erroneous advertising fees they may throw in there, that's negotiable. And obviously any kind of dealership markup. If you go to a dealer and you've already done your research and you know that this 2017 Dodge Charger is worth $21,200 and they're asking $24,000, well, you know what? I need to get it for $20,500. So yeah, haggle. No, obviously you can negotiate. If they say that they don't have it, if they say that they have a no negotiation process or policy or what have you, but you know that the car itself is not at market value, then one or two things needs to happen. They need to actually start negotiating, or you walk away. Never ever overpay for a car, especially knowing that it's a high price car, especially knowing you're going to be doing a trade-in. Okay, then obviously any kind of unwanted extras. One of the things that car dealerships are notorious for, you can almost bank on it, is that when you actually go to purchase the car at the closing, if you look at the documentation, you'll see some type of hidden erroneous fee for some engraved security number that's built into the side of the car, some other hidden fee that I didn't tell you about that's $500. Those are negotiable, and I almost never pay that. I'm willing to walk away. If it's not just flat out the price of the car and the mandatory fees, you take it off, or I'm not buying the car. So I've had many car purchases occur with at the last minute fees that they've had on the documentations, and they're notorious for that. I even saw a video with one of the guys that I follow, his personal vlog. He talked about purchasing a $75,000 CLS AMG, and he actually ended up paying $2,000 for insurance on the car that was the same insurance that you have on a monthly basis with your Progressive or your State Farm or Mutual Farm or what have you. So stuff like that. And then the fifth thing is, make sure that you're willing to walk away. And the reason this is very powerful is that if you're not willing to walk away from a car, then that gives the car salesman all of the leverage, because they know you really want the car and you have to have the car, so it gives them less incentive. Remember, the person who comes into a car negotiation phase who's the least attached is the person that's likely going to come out on top. So those are very important things to remember. Anytime you want to fall in love with the car, the odds of you getting a great deal, if it's not already a great deal because they have to move it fast or it's not at the end of the month, is very slim. So I know that that's easier said than done, but don't let a car salesman tell you that this is the best deal you're ever going to find, or that we just got it in and it's going to go tomorrow. If it's a great deal on the car and you know that it's a below market price and it's everything you want, absolutely get the car. But if it's something to where it's just average priced and you've seen two or three of them and there's a few other ones in the area, don't get emotionally attached to a specific car because you're looking at it. So just make sure that you don't do that. All right. Now, the third part, financing. Now, I'm going to try to be as condensed as possible with this, but I really want to try to be thorough as well, because the financing is a super important thing, and it's something that the car dealerships make intentionally overly complicated. So I really want to break this down. So just kind of bear with me. The first thing and the huge mistake that people make is they overfinance. And what I mean by that is they do two big mistakes. One is that you get more car than you actually can afford by extending out your loan amount. So, typically when it comes to purchasing cars, me personally, I only get a 3 or 4 year car loan. Now, some people will say, well, just get a longer length car loan so that your monthly payments are lower, and then just pay extra on the car. And that's great if you can do that. But for me, to keep me honest and to make sure that I can pay the car fast, I ask myself, 3 to 4 year car loan, whatever that monthly payment is going to be, that's how much car I can legit afford. Anything beyond that, and I'm financing more car than I can afford just to get my monthly payments down. So don't over finance. The second big mistake that people do, right, and is that they use the car dealership finance company. That is one of the worst things you can possibly do. Now, one of the things I should have mentioned in the prerequisites, if you will, or I should say the preliminary, is when you've decided to get a car, with the financing, make sure that you get your own financing before you go to the car dealership. And I say that because what car dealerships do is that when you go to get the financing through a car dealership, they will take your information and they will run it through 5 or 6 or 10 banks, or however many banks they run it through. And then whatever the best deal is for the car, for the interest rate that the bank says, yeah, we'll give, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so this rate. The car dealership will come back and they'll say, great news. They'll give you X amount, but they'll actually mark that up. So if the best rate that that a finance company says, that they'll give you is a 5%, the car dealership will come back, out of the office and they'll say, great, so we can get you a 6.5. How's that sound? So it's a super common trick. It's a tactic that almost 95% of them use. And the reason that they do that is because they actually make money on your interest, on your loan. So it's not like they're just doing you a favor as a middleman. They are collecting interest on your loan, on your car on a monthly basis, and they're marking it up to do it. So they don't tell you they're doing it, they just do it, and they make it sound like they're giving you the best price, but they're not. So make sure that you go to a credit union or you go to your bank. Usually credit unions are the ones that are going to always give you the best rate. No matter whether you have poor credit, good credit, average credit, great credit, doesn't matter. Credit unions are going to almost always give you the best rate. So make sure that you're pre-financed, letter in your hand, so that you know exactly how much you can afford. And one of the things you never do is never tell the car dealership how much that you got approved for. It's none of their business. So if they ask you how much you got approved for, you tell them, I got approved for what I wanted to get approved for. Never tell them that. It's none of their business. All right, because that goes back to the whole information. They can take that and then they will use that to over leverage to upsell you. All right. One of the things I also didn't touch on in terms of why it's not good to get a long car loan is because you will pay a higher interest rate. So if you get a 6 or 7 year car loan, you will actually end up paying thousands of dollars more in interest if you're just making your regular monthly payments. Also, it's a much higher chance that you're going to be upside down in your car significantly more, and you're going to also be upside down on the car longer. So it's just all sorts of bad reasons why you don't want to get a long car loan. If you are like, I want to get a long car loan in order to keep my payments down, then my recommendation would be to get a car that's cheaper, that you can more comfortably afford. So those are the tricks in terms of the financing side. So now the fourth deal, closing. So you've gotten to the final part. You've agreed on the car. You've negotiated, the terms of the car. You've haggled with them on, you want to get some mats thrown in there, or you see some scratches on the side of the car. Don't be afraid to negotiate with these guys. I mean, that's their jobs to negotiate. You're satisfied with the terms. You get to the closing. Now, I told you guys that the financing was super important, and that is super important. But I have to tell you, I really do think that the paperwork and the closing aspect is probably just as important, if not more important. And the reason is because at closing, like I already mentioned, the majority of the time you're going to see hidden fees. It's just a tactic. They're going to throw in a $500 fee here, or $275 fee here, or they're going to throw in a $1,500 insurance fee that they didn't tell you about. Make it seem as though it's mandatory. So always watch that. Now, when it comes to closing, check the paperwork. If you guys have agreed on getting additional mats ordered, if you guys have agreed on them putting additional tires on it, or fixing the wiper blades, or if a check engine light comes on, or just anything that they've agreed to fix or upgrade or to repair that you don't like, no matter how minor it is, make sure that gets put in writing. If it's not in writing, they are more than likely going to forget, or you're just going to be purely at the mercy, and then they're not on the hook to actually do it once you sign it. Another thing to keep a lookout for when it comes to paperwork is any kind of errors, any kind of misspellings. anything that they tell you that should be in there that's not in there, don't worry, we'll put it in there later, or something that's in there that they said that it's just a technicality, normally, don't worry about it, you're not going to have to pay it, get it out. Don't sign anything that isn't very clear, easy to understand. If there's an error, if there's an issue with blank spaces and certain prices, or if there's any kind of concessions that they say that they're going to make, and if it's not on that paperwork, trust me, it's not going to get done. So just understand the closing and the paperwork, that's where they make their money and their bread and butter. So be on the lookout for that. All right, so I've already told you guys about the hidden fees. I've already told you about kind of going over the buyer's order with that. In addition to the checking the paperwork, I highly encourage you guys to just don't be afraid and don't let them rush you through the process. So when it comes time to actually closing on the car and signing the paperwork, take your time. Don't let them distract you, over talk to you. Don't let them try to tell you about the weather or about how much you're going to love the car, or about, just scratch it off. Just zone in on your paperwork, even if you don't understand what the hell is in the paper, and go over it line by line by line by line. Make these guys work for the sale, and make sure that they understand that they can't get over on you when it comes to actually purchasing a car. So again, just get rid of the embarrassment. Any kind of thing that you guys, anything you guys have questions about, ask it. Make sure they understand it clearly. Make sure that they answer it clearly. And if it's not addressed, then you don't sign the paperwork until it gets addressed. All right. And then I guess the last thing with this is that, when it comes to the closing, just understand that, salesmen, they're obviously humans. They're like us. They're good people. Some of them are really great. Some of them are really bad. But my personal opinion of and how I approach this process is, I don't really care how nice you are. It's a business. You're commission based. You're in it to make money. You have incentive to usually upsell and to make as much money as you can off me on the sale. And I just think that it's important that you just make sure that everything you do, you guys get it in writing. It's just that simple. And then I'll give you guys a bonus tip if you've gotten this far in the video. If you have gotten this far in the video, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, because you guys know this is a financial education channel. So I'm going to be putting out at least 2 videos a week. That's going to be going over something informational, educational, hopefully entertaining. That's going to help improve you guys' lives and affect how you all think about your finances throughout your day and your life. But if you've gotten this far, I want to give you guys a bonus tip. Now, this is a personal opinion, this is controversial, and this is also more of a personal preference, but just from a number standpoint, this is an opinion of mine that I drastically believe in, and I live and I die by it. And I don't care how much money I have, this is just me. I never, ever buy a new car. Now, let me tell you why. There are many people who say, I just love that new car smell. Well, power to you. I'll take the car 3 years after you've driven it and you've taken all the depreciation off, or at least the big chunk of it, and then I'll get that car and I'll still get the new car smell, and I'll get it for a fraction of the price. Purchasing a new car is one of the silliest mistakes that people can make. You usually are going to pay significantly more in financing. You're going to pay more in your monthly payment. You're going to pay the most amount of money in depreciation, and you have to remember that it's a depreciating asset. So why pay $35,000 for something that's going to be worth $21,000 3 years from now, right? I'd rather pay $21,000 for the car and have it be worth $16,000 3 years from now. So obviously it's a general statement. It really depends on the type of car you get, depends on how much the car is. Obviously, also that the more expensive your car is, the more it's going to depreciate and the faster it's going to depreciate, especially with luxury cars. But just overall, I just think that it's much, much more fiscally responsible to buy a used vehicle. If you have to, get you extended warranty on the car, but just understand that when it comes to the car buying process, I usually think that used is the best way to go. So I hope that you guys have taken this information. I hope it's very beneficial. Hopefully you'll learn some things and you can take this information, and if you're in the market for the car, or if you know someone who is, that you can take this and you can kind of leverage it and, you know, use it to better your car buying experience. If you guys do take any of the advice or, you know, take any tips out of this, please let me know what you guys think in the comment below. Did you find that your experience was better or worse as a result of kind of taking this advice and using some of these tips? And then also, let me know what you guys also would like to have discussed in some of the next videos. So really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. Thanks for commenting. And I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you later.